Just so everyone knows, this meeting is going to be recorded in accordance with the Open Meetings Act for internal note-taking purposes. By staying on this call, you consent to being recorded and participating in the meeting. So with that, we'll go ahead and officially call the meeting to order at 9:04 a.m. Our camera system's a little wonky, but this is Harrison Palmer with the Department of Agriculture. I'm stepping in for Rachel as she is still out on maternity leave with that lovely new baby of hers. But we're going to go ahead and do a round of introductions as we kick the meeting off, and we'll kick it right to you and get in the room first, and then we'll go online.
Okay, great. I'm Suzanne Richards. I'm the Executive Director for the Maryland Agricultural Education Foundation.
Steve Conley, Deputy Secretary, Maryland Department of Agriculture.
Online, just to make things a little bit easier, I'm going to go down a list and just read folks out one by one as I see them. Cassie Shirk.
Good morning, everyone. Cassie Shirk, Assistant Secretary at the Department of Agriculture.
Thank you. Christopher McLarian.
Good morning, Chris McLarian, Director of the Apprenticeship and Training Program at the Maryland Department of Labor, sitting in for Secretary Wu.
Thank you. Deborah Cornwell.
Good morning, Debbie Hurt Cornwell with Maryland Department of Planning, Manager of the Natural and Working Lands Unit.
Well, thank you. Gary Ames. Oh, you're on mute.
I should have did that. Good morning, everyone. Gary M. Maryland Energy Administration. Focus on partnership innovation on animal waste to energy. Sitting in with Secretary Pinsky.
Thank you. Jeff Sanderson.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Jeff Sanderson. I'm the Chief of Accountability at MSDE and doing my best to stand in for Dr. Wright, who's on leave this week.
Okay. Thank you for doing Jason.
Good morning, Joanne Chasen, First Vice President, Maryland Farm Bureau.
Thank you. Latanya Clark.
Good morning, Latanya Clark, Maryland Department of Aging. I'm the Nutrition and Health Promotions Program Manager.
Thank you. Leslie Sessom Parks.
Good morning, everyone. I am Leslie Sessom Parks. I'm with MSDE. I'm the Chief of Professional Development and Special Initiatives in the Office of School and Community Nutrition Programs.
Thank you, Leslie. Nancy Nunn.
Good morning. I'm Nancy Nunn. I'm the Hughes Center for Agroecology. Nice to see you all.
Thank you, Nancy. Richard Kincaid.
Hey there, I'm Richard. I'm the Assistant State Superintendent in the Office of College and Career Pathways at MSDE.
Thank you. Sarah Shepard.
Sarah Shepard, Director of the Office of Talent and Workforce. I'm here on behalf of Secretary Coker for the Department of Commerce.
Thank you. And last but not least, Steve McHenry.
Good morning, everyone. Steve McHenry, Executive Director, Marbidco.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody, for joining this morning. We're going to go ahead and go to the approval of the May 2025 minutes. They were linked in the agenda. Just as a reminder, if you saw the minutes on the back, there's a list of the GICA appointed membership. And then we've got our advisory agencies. So only the appointed members will be voting on motions to include the minutes and then any action of the commission. So if we could get any comments or a motion to approve the May 2025 committee meeting minutes for the Labor, Education, and Develop Subcommittee.
Move to approve.
Motion from Suzanne. Can we get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Joanne. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Thank you all. We'll move into committee discussion this morning. We've got a handful of different continuing pieces from the May meeting. Looking at the local food exchange and the conversation and presentation that we got from Leslie in the Department of Education was fantastic. Leslie, do you have any updates or anything that you would like to share on the progress of the LFE?
Yes, thank you for inviting me to talk about that, but there are no updates at this time.
I did see that there are a handful of organizations pushing out the registration. I think it's a great opportunity for partnership with the industry to get farmers involved. Do you know if there have been any farmers that have signed up since that sign up push has started?
Good question. I would have to check that with DGS. To my knowledge, I really don't know, but there has been a push. We've been part of that, trying to get the word out.
Well, we're happy to continue to be partners in that. Thank you for including us. As you know, this is a very busy time of year in the ag sector. We don't have a whole ton of bandwidth to be working on special projects, but very excited for the progress of this and appreciate y'all's patience as we go through some of the development of what this is going to look like for Maryland farmers.
Yes, thank you, Harrison.
We'll go ahead and jump into the Ag Science program and study guide updates. There was an initial version, and Suzanne, I'm going to kick it over to you if you want to kind of give some of the background of where we are or where we've gotten to, where we are now, and what the next steps are.
Right. Well, I might kick it over to Richard Kincaid because I feel like he's the foremost authority of where we are with that process, and we'll do a better job of explaining. Richard, do you want to take it?
Absolutely. Thank you, Suzanne. So thanks, Harrison and Suzanne, for the invitation today to talk through some of our standards that we have available for public comment right now. For those unfamiliar, career and technical education are programs that you and I probably took in school back in the day. They're vocational training programs. CT has grown over the last couple of decades into a wide variety of courses that prepare students for the world of work. And in Maryland, thanks to the Blueprint for Education, are now providing a number of opportunities for students to earn post-secondary credit, participate in registered apprenticeship and youth apprenticeship programs, and become connected to the world of work much earlier than maybe we were when we were in high school. And in order to make sure that our programs across the state are of high quality, to make sure they are connected to industry recognized credentials that provide students opportunities to boost wages or to be competitive when they're entering into the job market, either after high school graduation or after they do some additional post-secondary training. We have to make sure that we are teaching the right content that's aligned to jobs that are available within Maryland or within the DMV. And so state departments of education routinely go through a process of developing and updating course level standards that should be taught in classrooms across the state. For Maryland, we haven't updated our career and technical education standards in some of our programming for as many as several decades. As you might imagine, things have changed in the world of work over the past couple of years, let alone the last couple of decades. And so we have taken this opportunity now with the Blueprint, and as we are considering redesigning all of our programs, to begin thinking about the sort of outcomes that students need to be able to demonstrate once they are completed with a high school program. So in the status quo in Maryland, we have 89 different career and technical education programs of study. My team has been working with industry partners all across the state for the better part of the last 9 to 12 months to determine where jobs are located, what those jobs are, and the specific criteria that students would need to know or demonstrate in order to move into those professions. The result of that is a new menu of options for programs across our state. We've gone from those 89 programs of study to 48. Some of those have been collapsed and merged. Others are new in emerging fields like IT. We've also worked with our industry partners to make sure that we are teaching students the right content that they need in order to move into the world of work. The culmination of all of that is a program of study guide. We have 48 program of study guides. I have dropped into the chat the link to where all 48 of these program guides can be found. My guess is that many on the call are already familiar with the guides. We put these in front of industry partners beginning back in January of this year. We received quite a bit of feedback. We then rolled that into a public comment period that started around the first part of June. That was a 30-day public comment period where we solicited feedback from all of our stakeholders across the state. When that 30-day period closed, we then took all of the feedback and began looking at our program of study guides in order to make sure that they were reflective of the feedback we received from our community. It took about 2.5 weeks of what feels like ongoing nonstop work to update those guides. We have now launched version 2 of those guides for public comment. They're available at the link that I shared in the chat. And those guides are available for public comment until August the 6th. These are the revised guides that take into account the feedback that we received from round 1. So hopefully if you were involved in providing feedback, you were able to see your updates in those guides so that you can see that progress has been made. The hope is, the timeline for this, is that the State Board of Education would then vote to adopt these standards for our CTE programs across the state. There's one caveat that I will mention about the ag standards and those agriculture program guides. When we were looking at the ag community, there are a number of different directions within the state of Maryland that we could go. We could talk about greenhouse management, soil management, pesticide management, HVAC, welding, things that you would need to work on a farm, things that you would need to work in an industrial, meat processing plant, forestry. You all know the story. Like, ag in Maryland is hyper community focused, and some of our students go into large industrial jobs, and others are working for the farm down the street that's owned by the same family, for 100 years. And so as we are designing our CTE programs, ag looks quite a bit different than an IT pathway or an engineering pathway. And so what we did is we started with the 2 major categories that encompass the majority of ag: animals and plants, right? And I know that's a 100,000-foot view, but it's that way intentionally. As we are designing our CTE programs, and you'll recognize this in our program guides, we're requiring 2 entry-level courses for all students across the state. We're calling these Core 1 and Core 2. So in animal science, by the end of that second core class, you would have all of the foundational information that you would need to move into an entry-level position, working generally with animals, right? It's from there that you then move into sort of more nuanced courses. We're calling these the flex courses. These courses in particular are where the hyper-local industry components come into play. Working with MAFE and Suzanne and our Agriculture Teachers Association and other stakeholders across the state, we are working over this fall to begin identifying those nuanced areas, like maybe equine science, or a pathway into veterinary medicine. Like, there's a lot of options. And so the challenge that we have given to the agriculture community, and this is a really hard challenge, I want to acknowledge that first, is we need to identify the top industries. We can't create programs of study for all of them, right? And so which ones do we need to focus on the most, where the greatest need or the greatest sort of transferable skills exist for students that want to go into an ag science program in high school, right? And so this is what we're working through over the course of the fall and early winter. All of that work will be grounded in the foundation of these program guides. And so we want to make sure that the program guides provide that foundation that will then allow us to take that next step. There are 3 program guides that I think would be really helpful if this group could take a look at. Those are in agriculture science, horticulture science, and there's one that's in renewable energy. And so these 3 areas I think would be the top. Of course, there are ancillary programs as well. We have entire pathways for welding, for mechanic, for these sort of things that are still ag adjacent, but they live in a different place. Those program guides are still available at the link too. So if that's an industry that you bring experience in, we would encourage you to provide feedback there as well. So that's the broad overview. My email address is on the website. That link will take you to. Feel free to reach out with questions. Feel free to reach out with public comment. There's a link on that page to do that. But certainly happy to answer any questions you all may have here as well. And Suzanne, I'll turn it back to you. I hope I covered everything.
I think you did a great job. Thank you. I think most people have heard of the blueprint, but they're not really sure what to think of it or how it's working. And this is a example of, what's happening with Pillar 3 of the blueprint. You did a great job of explaining it. And I would encourage everyone to go to that link and look at the program of study guides, because there may be other subject areas that you have more expertise in perhaps than agriculture. But I think it would be helpful to have that feedback. I'm not sure what else to say about it at this point. Richard's been great to work with. We've really been trying to, I've been sort of a conduit to the ag community and making sure that their needs are being raised up and met. It looks like Sarah has raised her hand.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Awesome as always. I have a quick question because I'm new to this group. I know you've had a prior meeting before, but is there a conversation around almost like sustainable agriculture, or almost it's still the same ag ways that we've had, but kind of branding them for this generation? I only mention that because I know some of our institutions of higher ed have kind of shifted their gears around this, is like, promoting it more as like sustainable agriculture and those sorts of catch buzzwords to get more students interested, and they've had a huge success around it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. One of the things that we have done is within the program guides, we've baked in sort of that sustainability component. But certainly, titling or ways that we market this to kids, like you're spot on. I think those are the sort of things that they are looking for. So, point taken.
I think one of the things that we were looking at, and Richard, it's great to finally meet you, virtually meet you. I've only heard your name a billion times over the last year or so, working with Suzanne and some other stakeholders, but really nice to put a face to the name, and thank you for jumping on today's meeting. That was a great perspective, and appreciate you kind of getting into the details about the process of where these program study guides came from and where we're going. One of the conversations that we would definitely want to promote as we're talking about the sustainable ag theory is incorporating the conservation work that we've been doing at the department in walking in tow with the language of sustainable ag. And I think that we get into a definitions discussion at every single GICA subcommittee and GICA meeting, where we're looking at what does sustainable ag mean, what does regenerative ag mean, and what does ag mean, conservation, all these other key buzzwords that come through. But making sure that students have the opportunity to learn about what really fundamentally agriculture looks like today, and the changes and evolutions that all ag has been making to keep that up. But we're excited to continue to provide feedback on the updated program study guide as we're going through. I wanted to ask, as we're looking at the program study guide, is this designed in theory for students to be career ready immediately upon graduation?
Generally, the answer is yes, but I'm going to answer it much broader than that, because I think what we want to make sure that students have is voice and choice in a number of different pathways. So we know that across Maryland, there are some incredible post-secondary agricultural programs, right? And we also know that within a number of our ag programs, there needs to be a post-secondary component. So what we want to make sure that we're able to do is provide students in high school an opportunity to get that foundational knowledge, along the way earn an industry recognized credential, and participate in something like a registered apprenticeship program, so that they are getting their feet wet into the world of work. Oftentimes what we see is students will leverage those experiences that they earned in high school to sort of augment and help to support them as they are moving into post-secondary work, if that's what they would like to do, right? I think we're sort of going into this eyes wide open that we want students to be better prepared than not, but also understanding like there is still other training that needs to happen post high school. Chris McLaren is on the call. Chris is, a great partner over at Maryland Labor, and is the connection piece to this work, because as we are thinking about getting these students that rich experience and getting them, not just into a hireable sort of position, but make them incredibly competitive into those positions. Chris and the work that his team does at Labor is crucial to this. It's recruiting, farms. It's recruiting industry folks within the ag community to offer apprenticeships to high school students as early as 16 years of age, so that they can begin getting involved into this work. That's where the magic happens, right? And so high school is a beginning. Labor gets us a little bit further down that road, but ultimately, I think what we see, a few years after graduation, if we have built this right, then we have a highly skilled, highly motivated workforce moving into all of our industries. I think that's the goal, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think you knew where I was going with my questions, and I appreciate the insight on that. And later on in the year, I think at the next full GICA meeting, the Young Farmers Advisory Board is going to come present the findings from their 2025 survey. But we had a preliminary stakeholder release yesterday, and as we're diving through a lot of the analysis of the data, one of the most interesting things when you look at young farmers in the state, and don't quote me on these numbers, but it was of farmers and ranchers in Maryland, over 52% had either an associate's or some sort of a post-secondary degree. 74% took some sort of post-secondary coursework, whether it was a trade school, technical school, whatever the case may be. But looking at a highly educated workforce in the agricultural sector, having that foundational knowledge to get them to that point and help them make an educated decision on what they'd like to do in that post-secondary environment is critical. The other interesting thing that ties directly into what you were saying was this trust in other farmers as the greatest learning tool, where education obviously is the foundation piece, but the most opportunity that farmers leverage to learn more is working through trusted other farmers within the community. And so being able to work through the internships, work through building that network at a young age really gives them that foundational piece to know who they can rely back on and learn those skills in a way that's going to make sense to the agricultural community as it stands now. So really really excited for that opportunity. And I think trying to navigate how to provide the most amount of opportunity for those internships, even given the relatively high stress, high risk environment in the ag sector, is going to be the most worthwhile payoff long term. Sarah, I see you got your hand up again.
Yeah, I was just going to add to the prior conversation and the current one as well, that I'd love for, Richard, we talk all the time, and perhaps the folks over at Ag, Washington College and Hood College specifically is doing a lot of work around this with their students and their local farmers and stakeholders, especially around like some of these definitions that you're talking about, like regenerative ag, sustainable ag, and so forth. And then also like involving the community and connecting their students to the industry. And I think it'd be interesting for this group to look at some of those like models and case studies and also those definitions of their programs that they are offering as it relates to what we're trying to accomplish here. Just a thought.
Yeah, I think yes. And one of the beautiful things about Blueprint, right? And maybe I'm calling it beautiful. There's probably a double-edged sword here as well, but the connection with community colleges is clear through the Blueprint. And so as we are designing these programs of study, making sure that students have opportunities to do that post-secondary training. And when I say post-secondary, I mean degree programs, but I also mean non-degree programs. Community colleges have an incredible value that they provide through the workforce side of the house. And, these are covered under Blueprint in the dual enrollment, programs. And so, students, according to Blueprint, should have the opportunity to take, here's a crazy number, up to 60 college credits at no cost to the student or their families through the Blueprint, by the time they graduate. And so as we are designing these CTE pathways, that is certainly center of mind. How do we connect these high school programs to those workforce programs, maybe to the degree programs, and certainly to apprenticeship programs, so that students have all of these options in their toolbox to pursue what's next, right? And so as you're reviewing these guides, think about it in terms of where might a student go next into a workforce program at the community college? Does that exist? And if not, then how might we begin developing some of these programs across the state into the industries that we know that we need? An interesting piece of information that Suzanne gave me that I've been chewing on for like 2 months now is that Maryland has more horses in our state than Kentucky does. And yet there's one low-hanging sort of entry-level ag field that we could have an impact on. Apparently we import farriers into our state, right? We don't have enough to meet the need. And so, is this an area of opportunity and growth for us to begin programming at high school in equine sciences, to then have that move into an apprenticeship or a post-secondary workforce option for students? That's one example of what I know are many examples that exist in our state where we can begin developing intentional pathways. So it's these areas that groups like this become so valuable to me and my team, so that we can think through like how we can start educating, the pipeline, of future workers, across Maryland.
Yeah, and I will say, Richard, that I'm not just promoting Washington College, for instance, but I know that they have an articulation agreement with Chesapeake College because their Kent County residents can't really get to Chesapeake College.
Yeah.
So they're looking at different programs that they can offer students to go to Washington College as well during high school to take. So those are just, especially our rural communities, right? Like some of our smaller colleges with the community colleges are trying to be more creative. And I think it's a ripe opportunity
Agreed.
to figure out our students' placements. in this world. Other places too, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. We can talk about that offline some other time, Richard, but yes.
So I'll add here that the Maryland Ag Education Foundation is actually working on what I'm calling an inventory of opportunities. So per local education agency, what ag programs are being offered, and then what opportunities there are for dual enrollment, apprenticeships, if there are any that are already established in that location, just to try to get an idea of what's available out there for students and get them thinking about, what they can do with their core plus flex opportunities. So with 24 LEAs, it takes a while to get all that done. And it's always interesting to hear about different opportunities, like especially with the community colleges and the arrangement that Sarah just mentioned. So lots of things to track down.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of silos as you start digging into some of those pieces, and what's happening and working really well on the shore where folks are able to get creative is like a foreign concept on other, in other regions of the state. So to be able to leverage, I think even conversations in groups like this for that conversation is really helpful.
Yes, very much so.
The last question, Richard, you said the second review for the program study guides is closing on the 6th.
Correct, August the 6th. And so head over to the public comment page, the link I provided, and please provide that comment no later than August the 6th. I will ask, it would be incredibly helpful if when you provide feedback, it is specific. We get, believe it or not, commentary like these are great or these are terrible. We can't do a whole lot with that. And so if there are specific items, sustainable ag, for example, if you see that some of those areas are missing, if you could help us identify where that needs to go and then provide maybe some sample language that we can work with. And of course, we'll reach out to you if we have any specific questions on it, but that level of detail helps us make sure that we're getting the content right. And so please be very intentional about the feedback that you do provide so that we can use it. That would be my only request.
Thank you. And I can share that with the commission as well after this, the link to the full list of program study guides.
Thanks, y'all.
Any further questions about the ag science, horticulture, or renewable energy program study guides before we move on? All right. Thanks again, Richard.
Hey, Richard, will you send, or can someone send those study guides to the email that went out to everybody, just so then we can all forward it to our networks as well?
Yep. Sarah, I'll share that after the meeting with the
great.
commission.
Thank you.
So I think we're going to use the last bit of the meeting to discuss some of the solar development impacts and see if there's been progress. I don't know if Alicia is going to be able to join the meeting today. I know that she is our current representative on the work group looking at putting together things for Senate Bill 931 and what those impacts are going to look like. We've had a handful of stakeholder engagement meetings surrounding solar impacts on agriculture, what that's going to look like in the future. Didn't know if MEA had an opportunity to chime in and give any feedback on what you guys are hearing from the ag community on 931, and if there's some opportunity for stakeholder engagement from y'all side as well to help clear the air. I think that there's a lot of misinformation that's being floated around surrounding the impacts of the bill, and it's causing some conversations to be had within the community that are leading in a different direction. So, Gary, I don't know if you're still on or wanted to chime in on some of those pieces.
It appears that Gary left.
He popped out. Okay. Trying to look at the guest list. I don't know if we've got anybody from MEA anymore that may put a quick end to that conversation. All right, well, with respect to new business, the timeline for departmental proposals was moved up. And theories or recommendations for departmental legislation was moved to July 1st. So I didn't know if there was an opportunity for any of the folks from different agencies to bring up their departmentals if they're going to have an impact on agriculture. There's still time to submit departmental priorities if there's going to be something that was discussed in the committees that may warrant a departmental to help navigate. And then we still have labor, commerce, education, DHS, aging. No legislative proposals that will touch ag.
I think part of the problem, Harrison, is even though this is committee, there's public members, and a lot of times with the departmental legislation, we haven't been given the approval to publicly share. Yeah, so I think that may be a little early.
Good. Yeah, that's fine. I know that Rachel was hoping to see if there was any discussion that may warrant departmental. I don't think that this committee has anything per se that would warrant a new departmental to be working through.
I don't think there is.
Environment and value add definitely do. So we'll save those for those meetings. Wanted to open up for public comment if there is anyone.
Harrison?
There we
Gary's
go.
back on if you want to hear from MEA.
Oh, yes, yeah.
There we go. Hey, Gary, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I had a little transfer to phone here. Sorry about that. Yes, go ahead.
No worries. We were discussing a little bit of the impacts of Senate Bill 931 and some of the messaging that's going out within the ag community about that. We've had a handful of stakeholder engagement meetings to try to address some of the misinformation that's been floating around, but didn't know if MEA had any. I know that Alicia's on the work group right now in Rachel's absence on looking at how to get some regs set in place. But if there are any opportunities for, either some listening sessions or stakeholder engagement opportunities to answer some questions from the ag community from MEA.
Well, we've always kept that line open for the opportunity to speak with the ag. And I think the last time we met, there is no mandatory on our end to demand any solar and ag land. This is more of an optional. We do have grants and rebates for those who are interested. However, there is no mandatory or forcible on our end. But back to your original question, we've always kept it open for the ag community. Matter of fact, last month with Alicia, we had our solar department had a conference with Alicia talking about the exact topic. But from my standpoint and for the agency standpoint, that we are open for a dialogue. There is no forcible that MEA is pushing hard to put solar on ag land. This is more of us providing grants and rebates for those who are interested. But I'm more than happy if anyone wants to have a dialogue with Maryland Energy Administration. We're more than happy to put a group of team together to answer any of the question that is lingering out there.
Great. We appreciate that. Yeah, I think that some of the conversations have been, sort of folks preparing for the worst, and we've had really good success with those stakeholder engagement meetings, just being able to clear a bit of the air and explain just what you said. There is no, no threat of taking any ag land. It is all a voluntary program of what you'd like to do. So I think that's been helpful to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, but appreciate the opportunity for further engagement, and we may be in touch to see if we can put something together.
Yes, thank you for that. And if anyone is on that call and if you want to speak to me directly or or even any one of our agency, please feel free to reach out to me. It's gary.amy@maryland.gov. And we've always, either we can invite you at our office or we can meet you where you are.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any public comment for non-appointed members that are on the call? Any other agency updates that folks want to share? All right, we can give folks a handful of minutes back into their day. If we could get a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Suzanne. And a second?
Second.
Nancy, I saw that you came off mute.
No, I'm good. I was going to second it for you.
That would be great. Thank you. Any opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Have a
Thank
great
you.
rest of your day.